You are 11 years old, and your feet do not reach the floor of the courtroom, so you let them swing, slow, like the pendulum on your grandmother's clock. The judge leans forward with a kind voice and asks the one question the lawyers swore would never be said out loud. Which parent do you want to live with? Behind you, you can feel them both, your mother on the left, your father on the right, breathing the careful way people breathe when they are trying not to. You do not turn around, because if you turn around you will have to look at a face, and looking at a face feels like the same thing as choosing one. High on the wall there is a window, and through it you can see the parking lot, and you have already found both of their cars. Your father's car is running, a thin gray rope of exhaust climbing into the cold air. Your mother's car sits dark and quiet, because she came early and switched hers off. That is the whole difference between them, you think, and you have always known it without the words. One is always about to leave, and one is already here. Between the two homes there was always a duffel bag that lived half-packed by the door, never fully unzipped, never fully put away. And there were the parking lot handoffs, where one of them pulled in and one of them pulled out, and you were the thing passed between two idling cars. You did not know a person could be a tiebreaker until today, until two grown-ups stood very still and waited for a child to settle it. It began 2 winters ago, not with a fight, but with a sound, the front door clicking shut softer than usual, like he was trying not to wake you. In the morning your mother was scrubbing a pan that was already clean, and she said your father would be staying somewhere else for a while, and the word, well, did a great deal of heavy lifting. Nobody yelled, and that was the part that frightened you. You had braced for thunder and got gray weather instead, the kind that just keeps going. Your father's new place smelled like fresh paint and takeout boxes, and he made the whole thing sound like an adventure. He had an air mattress for you and a box of the cereal with the marshmallows, the kind your mother always said would rot your teeth. He let you stay up late and called it guys' night, and he would say 5 more minutes and mean it, and that was the best feeling in the world. But 5 more minutes was also what he said when he was late to pick you up, idling at the curb with the engine running. And it was what he said before he glanced at his watch and cut a weekend short, and you learned to read that glance the way sailors read the sky. Once he took you fishing and promised the whole day, and by lunch his phone was buzzing and the boat was already turning back toward the dock. On your 10th birthday, he arrived an hour late with a present so big it embarrassed everyone, as if the size of the box could stand in for the hour. Later there was a second coffee mug at his place that wasn't yours and wasn't his, and a coat on the hook by the door, and you understood his life was already moving on without needing you in it. He never once said a bad word about your mother, and somehow that made it worse, made him seem like the gentle one, the bigger person. When her name came up, he would just go quiet and a little sad, and you filled that silence with the story you already wanted to believe. Being chosen by the fun one felt like being picked first in gym, and you did not yet know that fun is the cheapest thing a parent can give. Your mother's apartment was smaller and louder, the radiator clanking, the rent always a little ahead of the paycheck. On the refrigerator were sticky notes in her tired handwriting. Dentist Tuesday, permission slip, call about the heat, a small yellow map of everything holding your life together. She was tired in a way you resented, because tired is not fun, and you were 11 and you badly wanted fun. So you blamed her. You will not pretend otherwise now, because anger needs somewhere to land, and she was always the one still in the room. You'd find her asleep at the kitchen table some nights, head down on a pile of bills, the pen still in her hand. Once, through the wall, you heard her crying in the bathroom with the fan turned on so you wouldn't hear, and you turned your music up so she'd think it worked. She taught herself to fix the chain on your bike, the thing your father used to do, kneeling in the cold with grease on her hands and no one to thank her. And she never said a bad word about him either, though she had every reason to. She just folded the hard parts away where you couldn't reach them. You took every bit of it for granted, because staying looks a lot like boredom when you are too young to know what it costs. Then came the lawyers and the meetings and the word custody, a word that sounds like a dessert and tastes like nothing at all. A woman with kind eyes and a clipboard asked you questions in a room with far too many toys for a kid your age. You understood the toys were a kind of trick, so you sat very still and chose your words like stepping stones across a river. Both of them coached you, though neither would ever have called it that. Your father said, just tell the truth, kiddo, tell them where you're happiest, and you heard the marshmallows and the late movies and knew exactly which answer that pointed to. Your mother said, tell them the truth, baby, and then she stopped, and added nothing to tip the scale, and at the time you thought that meant she cared less. You see it now. She was the only one who left the sentence empty on purpose. The day of the hearing came cold and too bright, and you wore the stiff collared shirt and the shoes that pinched at the heel. Your father said you looked sharp. Your mother just reached over and fixed your collar without a single word. In the hallway outside the courtroom, there is a bench, a water cooler, and a stack of little paper cups, and you fold one flat and unfold it, and fold it flat again until it tears. That is when you hear them, just around the corner, your mother's voice, low, talking with her lawyer, not meant for you. The lawyer is saying they have a strong case, the schedule, the stability, the notes on the fridge, that she could win this if she pushed. And your mother says, I don't want to win him like that. I don't want him standing up there feeling like a rope two people are pulling in half. She says, if he chooses his father, I won't fight it in front of him. I am not going to make my son choose between loving me and telling the truth. You stand very still by the water cooler, the torn cup in your fist, and the whole shape of the last 2 years quietly turns inside out. All this time you thought she was quiet because she had nothing to say. She was quiet because she was holding her tongue so it would never cut you. You think of the running car and the car switched off. You think of who arrived early and who is always about to leave. And you understand, at last, that always there was never boring. It was the most expensive thing either of them ever gave you, and only one of them was paying. Something in you settles then, the way water settles after the stone goes in, and you already know what you will say before they call your name. They call you in. The hallway is too bright, the door's too heavy, and your pinching shoes carry you toward the question waiting inside. And now here you are again, back inside the question, feet swinging above the floor, both of them behind you, the judge waiting with her patient hands. You glance up at the high window one last time. The gray exhaust still climbs from your father's car, running, even now, even for this. You turn around. You promised yourself you wouldn't, but you do, because they deserve your face for this and not the back of your head. Your mother's hands are knotted white in her lap, and she gives you a small smile working so hard to say it's okay. Whatever you choose, it's okay. Your father smiles too, warm and easy. And then, because he cannot help it, because it is simply who he is, his eyes flick down to his watch. It is such a small thing. He probably does not even know he did it. But you have read that glance your entire life, and it still means the same. Somewhere else is already pulling. You turn back to the judge. Your mouth has gone dry, and the whole room leans in like one held breath. And you say her name. You say, my mom. I want to live with my mom. You do not say it because you love her more. Love was never the question. Staying was, and only one of them ever learned how. Behind you, your mother makes a sound, half a sob, quickly swallowed, the sound of someone who had prepared to lose and didn't. And then you look at your father, because you have to know, and that is the moment you will carry for the rest of your life. His face does something fast and complicated, and underneath the hurt, for just 1 second, before he can hide it, there is relief. Relief, like a man who has been holding a heavy door open against the wind, finally and quietly allowed to let it close. You see that you did not break his heart. You handed him back his freedom, and some small ashamed part of him is grateful, and that is so much worse than tears. He will be a good weekend father. He will do the pancakes and the late movies and the 5 more minutes, and he will mean every single one. But he will never have to learn the sticky notes, the dentist on Tuesday, the call about the heat, and now you both know it, and neither of you will ever say it out loud. The judge says some kind words you do not really hear. Papers move, a stamp comes down, and it is over faster than you believed a whole life could be decided. Out in the hallway your mother kneels and holds you too tight, and over her shoulder you watch your father shrug into his coat. He hugs you, and he smells like cold air and the cologne he has worn forever, and he says, I'm proud of you for being honest, kiddo, and he means that too. Then he checks his watch, for real this time, and you find you do not even mind, because you finally understand it was never about you, it was just the weather of him. Through the tall window you watch him cross the parking lot to the car that is still running, the gray rope of exhaust waiting, patient in a way he never quite could be. He pulls out first. Your mother's car still sits dark and cold and parked, because she will always be the one who leaves last, who stays a little longer, who turns the engine off. On the drive home your feet still do not reach the floor of her car, so you let them swing, slow, like the pendulum on your grandmother's clock. Neither of you says much. She drives, and you watch her hands on the wheel, the same hands that fixed the bike chain in the cold. You think you will spend a long time being sad about a father you chose not to live with, and an even longer time being grateful for a mother you very nearly did not choose at all. She catches you looking and asks if you're hungry, and you say yes, and she takes the long way to the diner you both like. That night, she leaves a new sticky note on the fridge in her tired handwriting, and for the first time you stop and actually read it. It just says what's for breakfast tomorrow, but you understand now that this is what love looks like when it has nowhere flashy to go. And you understand the cruel, quiet thing no one ever warns you about, that sometimes you must lose the parent who left all over again, just to keep the one who stayed.